goosebumps every time, yeah, 713. Through the 281, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? Why they on me? I'm flying, sipping low-key. I'm sipping low-key and honest, rider, rider. I get those goosebumps every time. I'm around, yeah. Cause I'm hard to make everything feel fine. Really love who's fun.
Yeah, the juices were there and Premier. Newcastle United.
I get those goosebumps every time. I need the hype, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around me, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time.
Up the mugs, yes sir.
Yes, good evening everyone and welcome to Loaded Mag NUFC Full Loaded Transfer Show. We promised you that we'd be back again with some more names and another discussion, and we are here to deliver on this fine Sunday evening. Boys, how are we? How's things?
This show was long in the planning. It's not like we decided at 7 o'clock that this is what we're doing, but no, all good, all good. Busy day for me. I was gone from early morning. I was away actually in Westport. That's where I was today, part of Mother's Day celebration and stuff. But good day, and just in the door at about 27 or something like that. So not long in the door. But how are you boys? How are you, Chris?
Good, mate. Yeah, I got home. Oh God, what time was it? It must have been about 6 o'clock, maybe something like that. So yeah, been out all day with my brother-in-law's parents. So it's the first time I met them. So that was really nice. And me, Lisa, Summer went. So yeah, it was all good, all nice. I saw my mum last night. I didn't get to see her today because she was busy. So, but yeah, it's been a nice day, nice way to end the weekends. But Pete, how are you, mate? And how was your weekends? That's what I want to know.
Mm-hmm. Great weekend, very, very good. Great day today. We gave the mothers some love today. Took the wife and my mum out for a nice curry in the afternoon. Yeah, the curry from just down the road. Had a nice curry. Nice to have everyone together. Lovely day. But yeah, great weekend, as many others would have had as well, as part of the celebrations. Managed to get my way up there. It was a long day, but managed to get up there for the trip. And yeah, to see the celebrations was amazing. Everyone that was there and would have seen it would know anyway. Everyone that was watching it on TV would know as well. Even more so because the pictures and the images that I saw when I come back were stuff that I hadn't seen at the time, but you could only imagine because the amount of fans, I think they projected around 300,000 attended. For me, I think there's more. If they thought that 150,000 were sort of there for the parade and 150,000 were or more were there for the town mall. For me, I think there was more than that. It was unbelievable. It really, really was. And it was all since the early morning. It was kind of bubbling, and it was a real good sort of party atmosphere. Really, really good to see. And just a great occasion. And the boys, you'll know because you'd have watched it. I think having watched it back now, it's definitely taken aback the players and the manager of just how big that was yesterday, and how much it meant to the city. Everybody knows because the players get told constantly, but that there was just on another level. And yeah, there was lots of pictures out there that lots of people took videos and all the rest. There are a couple of little snippets in there, a few videos in there, and a few pictures of the lads. And we might have a video, I think. Yeah, I think we do.
We do have a video. Yeah, let's play that video. Why not?
Go for it.
class, isn't
it? Yeah, that's the first time I watched it back. I've not watched it. Just took that in the moment, loads of pictures as well and stuff. But you know what's great about that is that like after the two buses, literally everyone in that section there just followed on behind all the way to Town Wall. So it wasn't just the people that they were seeing side to side. Everyone was behind, just kind of just following on. And you might have seen in between the two coaches, but the people on the other side literally had the seats, and like they had the best seats in the house. They were literally hanging out the other side of the window. Like if they'd have slipped to a fall, they just took a drop, like down to the bottom. They were hanging out the windows. There was one guy that was sitting on like the ledge, just kind of like just chilling, feet up, like just it was unreal. People on lampposts. There was one guy early on that climbed up onto Shearer's statue outside the stadium. Yeah, he was just kind of sat on top of him, just like downing beers, and everyone was just going mad. It was just a great atmosphere. Really, really like fun time atmosphere, and yeah, just a great day. And obviously, Town Wall was quality as well. As you will see or you'll hear in the video, lots of wind. Was a bit of a windy day there, and it was a cold day out there. But look, I don't think anyone cared about that. But boys, so what was it like from your perspective? You would have watched it on TV, seen the interviews and stuff, seen things I haven't seen. Like, how did it look for you guys, being like sort of being able to visualize and see everything as it was kind of opening up?
Yeah, well, I started watching it on the Newcastle United YouTube channel, and you could. Then I was like, that's what I was texting you that they've taken off now. They've eventually taken off. Then they cut to Anton Deck, and they're in Anton Deck doing all the interviews, and as they're going, it was just absolute mayhem. And then I discovered, hey. Keith Downey's on the bus as well. So I had Sky Sports on my phone, so I was watching because they kind of dovetail between the interviews. So you kind of get a bit of everything. So it was just absolutely unbelievable. The scenes were unreal, and then when the Eddie Howe banner, the flag came down on the Sandman signature, where we normally try and stay if we're in Newcastle as well. I just think, hey, we'll be there in a couple of weeks' time. But it's just absolutely unbelievable. And then the crowds, people everywhere, and then into Town Moor as well. And the reception they got, it just unbelievable. It was like Glastonbury, the way that was set up there as well. But yeah, I agree with you. I think there's more than 300,000 as well. It looked at an awful lot of people, but geez, it was just because I know for you, Peter, it was kind of on the day you kind of decided to go. So just class. But Chris, how about you?
Yeah, so I was watching it on Sky News. It was quite frustrating, though, I must admit. I don't know if you boys have caught it afterwards or whatever, but it was quite funny because they were obviously commentating on what was going on, and then Anton Deck or Keith Downey, whoever it was, would then get an interview with one of the players or with Eddie Howe, and the commentator was just carrying on talking, and it was like just cut to it and go to let's listen to what they're saying. So that kept happening quite a lot, but no, it was fantastic scenes. I would have loved to have been there, and I can't wait to go up in a couple of weeks. Really, really looking forward to it. But it was great scenes, and a few people in the chat have been mentioning it as well. The fact that these players, and I think you said at the start of the show, Pete, these players probably weren't expecting that. And I think everyone kind of had an idea that there would be big celebrations, but not on that scale. Even my red and blue mates were going, bloody hell, you've only won the Carabao Cup, but they went, no, fair play. It was a brilliant, brilliant turnout. And when you think how many hundreds of thousands of people were there, it was brilliant, and nothing less than the players and the manager deserve. But I think some of them will have been taken aback by that. And there is actually a question in there. Well, it's not really a question, but I'll pop it up. It's from Carl Utterson. And he says, winning trophies, being in Europe, and them scenes yesterday will definitely attract new players to the club. And it's good that you've tuned in, Kyle, because that's exactly what we're going to be talking about. Who wouldn't want to join a club with amazing fans like this? Incredible scenes. And I couldn't agree with that more. Really couldn't. I just thought it shed Newcastle in a really good light. I know there was, loads of police around the buses, which is standard, but absolutely no trouble whatsoever. Everyone just there enjoying themselves, making the most of it, and giving back to those players and Eddie Howe, for finally delivering a trophy to Newcastle. So no, it was great to see. And And yeah, I particularly, Daz, that was my favourite part, you know, when they were on the Sandman and then the big Eddie Howe thing come down. I just thought that was touch of class, that, and I'm sure that meant the world to Eddie. Absolutely brilliant. Wonderful scene.
And Pete, I only spotted today that you were at Town Moor as well as the parade. But if you had wanted to head for home after the parade, would that have been possible?
What, after the parade?
Yeah, after everyone was moving towards Town Moor.
What if I'd decided just to go home there?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, could have, because Town Moor is the other way. It's the other way to exiting the city centre. So I could have. I'll be honest with you. We hung around near the stack for probably about half an hour, 40 minutes, whereas everyone kind of followed behind the buses or made a quicker way to get to Town Moor. But we held back a little bit, and there was a lot that went for the celebrations, then went straight back into the stack or any of the local bars and just carried on drinking, and were just quite happy with just seeing the parade. There were lots of fans, like I would say there was thousands of fans still on the street that didn't go to Town Moor, that were just happy to go into the bars, have a few drinks. Some went up to Shearers, some went up to the stack, went to the local pubs around, and were just happy to just have a drink because they'd seen the celebrations from the parade. Because I think there was a lot of talk in between that some people preferred to have the parade, some people wanted Town Moor, some people wanted both. So I think the ones that were just happy to see the parade and see the players go by and get that up close and personal kind of inspection of the cup, the players and everyone else.
Just to make sure.
Just to make sure it's real. To pinch themselves a little bit more. And someone else in the chat asked who was on the second bus, and it was the staff. The staff behind everyone, pretty much the ones that Eddie Howe at Town Moor got onto the stage and kind of gave them the opportunity to lift the trophy. So they were on the second bus. So, and that was it. So I'll be honest with you, I was actually really content after the parade. If I'd have missed for whatever reason Town Moor, I'd have been okay with it, because it was just amazing to see that. Like, that was it. Like I said, it was the last minute decision. I had my tickets for the Town Moor event. Did they ask for the ticket? Did they? No. They were never ever going to manage that. We were walking in, and I was like trying to look at my downloaded tickets, and then I looked at the staff, and they were just like literally looking the other way, and everyone was just kind of marching in, like, all right, fair enough. But yeah, I would have been quite content with that. We went to Town Moor. Everyone was going. It was a nice experience walking along the way. And yeah, it was great. It had a little bit of everything for everybody, and yeah, hopefully it's not the last time we get to see scenes like that in the future. And but you know, it's interesting that you touched on that, and you touched on that, Chris, about the players being taken aback by it, because I think it brings us to our sort of first an open discussion on players.
Before you do, Pete, I have a question for the chatters. Well, first of all, smash that like button.
Yes.
That's the first thing you should be doing. But the second question then, or first question, that was the first comment, is did any of the chatters see Pete, Sky Sports Pete, on the telly? Because Pete tells us who's on the telly. We've got no proof. So I wanted to know, did anyone see him on the telly?
I hope Johnny's not in the chat. For God's sake. I hope he's not watching this tonight. He's going to go mad. But yeah, I was on Gillette's Soccer Saturday, or Gillette Lab, whatever it is, Soccer Saturday, in between the panel talking. Lucky enough to spend a bit of time with Keith Down, who asked me a few questions about the whole sort of feeling and the emotion. This was quite early on in early afternoon-ish, probably about 1:30, 1:45. But yeah, great to talk to him. Great to kind of feel the atmosphere. And actually, where we were having the interview, literally about 200 yards away, you could see the buses.
Peter saw you. And so did Kyle. It is true. He wasn't making it up.
No. I'll send you the video. Occasionally, and all the rest of it. But the buses that were primed and ready, like 200 yards away. And it was like properly heavily security. Like, we couldn't get up to that bit without getting the okay from Keith and the team to let us up to do the interview. So it was all very protected there. But no, great experience to be a part of that. But yeah, I'm just thinking, like, let's get more more of the same. Let's get more of it.
More people on the bus.
Absolutely, but it brings us to the other point, and it brings us to a point that maybe that we don't want to discuss, but it is important to discuss. And it's about this man. Considering we're going to have a discussion about strikers, we'll talk about Alexander Isak, because obviously there's lots of discussion on the back of him at this moment in time, and I'll have to flip through the sections, lads, so just bear with me. Obviously, there's constant reports of Isak, and we don't want to spend too much time on it. You know what? I saw it, and I'm not good with heights. I'm not going to lie, but seeing the abseil down with the flog.
We know that, Pete. You're only 5'5".
And the rest.
You left yourself wide open for that.
And the rest. Come on, there's a bit more to add there to get to 6'1". Come on, you know. But no, the scenes were unreal. I was just behind the stack when they released it, and so I managed to get an image of it, a couple of snaps of it, and it just, honestly, it was unreal. And the abseiling down with the fog flares, and it was all smoke everywhere, and it just brought that kind of proper celebration feel to it. But with Alexander Isak there are continual speculations about him, thinking that other teams can strike a deal with him, and Liverpool have been linked, Arsenal have been linked, and all the rest of it. And we'll have a discussion on that in just a second. But for me, seeing this particular video, and I'll just drop it on in a second, just filled me with so much joy, seeing him just in his element here. And I grabbed the clip, so I'll just put it on for everyone so they can see it, if you've not already seen it already.
Give us your best Geordie to this crowd today.
Aye. Harry, walk it.
That'll do me.
Anthony Isak.
I absolutely love it. And I've got a question for you boys and people in the chat. After those celebrations, after what we've said about players being taken aback by the atmosphere and everything else, how can Alexander Isak leave that now? That's my question to you. Can he? How can he? Seeing the love and that the admiration from 300,000+ Newcastle United fans, the trophy that we promised him a new stadium, training ground, they're in the works, promised him to fight for titles. We've delivered one. How can he possibly leave at this point now? What's your thoughts on this? I don't want to spend too long on it, because we've got more important things to think about. But just to touch on it briefly, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking there's zero chance that Isak is gone this summer. Whatever about signing a new contract, I think that he will do that as well, especially if we get Champions League football. But there's zero chance he's going this summer. There's no alternative universe that I can see him leaving this summer. So I would be devastated and absolutely shocked if it was to go somewhere else this summer. So going nowhere. Get him on the back of your jersey, your new jersey.
There we go. Chris, what's your thoughts?
Do you know what? I entirely agree with that. I would be absolutely gobsmacked if Alexander Isak left Newcastle. I really, really would. I think he's now going to be here for the long haul. I think I didn't think it before the trophy. I always felt it would hinge on Champions League football. I think Champions League football is a massive help. Don't get me wrong, but I genuinely think I think Alexander Isak gives us another year minimum, just off that trophy. Just so the ownership can go. Just give us one more year and let's see what we can do. If we get Champions League football, I can see him tying himself down for another 3 or 4 years on top of what he's got now. I really, really can. Whether there's a release clause in there or not, we don't know. If one does get signed, but either way, I just don't see Alexander Isak leaving this summer. I really, really don't. I'm adamant on it. I think there's more chance of another player leaving. who that may be. I mean, obviously, in an ideal world, we would be hoping that, we can get rid of some of those fringe players outside of the starting 11. That would certainly help us in the summer to be able to bring new players in. But if we were to sacrifice one of our starting 11 players, I just don't think it would be Alexander Isak. I think we've heard in the past, when we were under those PSR constraints, those issues, and we were desperately trying to sell someone, the one consistent message was Alexander Isak doesn't leave. Everybody else, was kind of not up for sale, but there was a little bit of wiggle room. Like Alexander Isak was non-negotiable, and I think this season he's proved we cannot let him go. And as long as Alexander Isak's happy, I'm sure Newcastle are happy with him. I don't see him going anywhere.
Yeah, for me, it just strengthened my belief that he's not going anywhere after that. Seeing that and seeing his interaction with the fans and all the legends that are linked to the club, whether they're ex-footballers or not, the likes of Anton Deck, Shearer, the lot of them, and just seeing his interactions and how much the fans love him. You wouldn't have heard it necessarily, but the amount of just big pockets of fans that would just go mad for Isak when they called him onto the stage, chanting his name, just going absolutely mad. Like you said, it was like Glastonbury Field. It was like party mode on the Town Moor, and they absolutely love him to bits. And it goes back to the point that so many other players that we've loved have left the club, and they've always said that they wish they'd have stayed. Johan Cavallo was another one. That there's many others going back over the years that thought the grass was greener and then didn't have or experience the type of love and appreciation. And that sometimes, in a lot of cases, can give you an extra 10%. When you've got that love and affection from a fan base, it can give you that extra 10% to play at a higher level. And he is playing at an absolute high level at the moment. So for me, I think it's a non-starter. Liverpool have been linked, Arsenal have been linked more recently, and just to add to that, and strengthen our argument tonight, there has been some news from an Arsenal perspective, which maybe sidelines their Isak talk, because David Ornstein reports tonight that Arsenal, with a new sporting director, Andrea Berta from Atletico Madrid, is developing a strong interest in Victor Gyökeres as a possible striker signing. Talked about him potentially expecting to figure prominently in those sort of discussions for a striker, and maybe more realistic than Isak. Ornstein has always said that Newcastle United have got no intention of selling him, and it looks like, from a Newcastle perspective, a little bit of a sigh of relief, and this conversation could potentially be dead, is that one of the major clubs is now looking in another direction. So for me, that strengthens our argument to say, actually, these clubs that have been banging on and putting stuff in the media for God knows how long are now actually starting to realise that we don't need to sell. We're not under any pressure, and now potentially looking on to other places. But just quickly, boys, does that give you the same sort of feeling? Seeing that they're now linked and looking in other directions already before the season's out, does that give you that impression that, I think they realise that Isak's now not an attainable target?
It was a non-starter from me from the get-go. For Arsenal, Liverpool, there's only elite clubs that and I'm not elite clubs that could potentially persuade them, and they're not in that bracket for me. Now that if Arsenal are looking at Gyökeres, I'm thinking maybe we want to piss them off a bit more. Where does Gyökeres and Isak play for the Swedish team? Are they both playing up two up front?
Yeah,
see where I'm going there.
Interchangeable.
Yeah. Well, what price? Sporting? Maybe we can talk.
He's got a buyout clause, I think, 60 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd have to change our way of our tactic to probably accommodate to get both of them on the pitch. But I'm all for pissing them off along the way. We're probably looking at a cheaper alternative though, that we're going to probably talk about now as well.
Definitely. So Gyökeres, Chris, could be potentially, looks like the target. And to be fair, we've always said no team can afford him. Does that kind of prove its point?
Oh, mate, 100%. Like Isak's not an option for Arsenal. I know Arsenal fans don't want to hear that, but I can't believe the amount of chest that Arsenal fans have for Isak, in the sense that, you know, we should. I think one fan was like, yeah, we should put 100 million bid in for Isak, and and go and get him. And it's like, he's never 100 million for the start. We paid 63 for the kickoff. And if Alexander Isak, if and when he leaves Newcastle, it will be for a step up, and a significant step up. For anyone questioning me there, but yeah, it will be a significant step up. And as you said at the start, Pete, it's going to be your elite clubs, isn't it? It's going to be your PSGs, your Real Madrids, your Barcelonas, your Bayern Munichs, and for whatever reason, there's many reasons, why a lot of those clubs will naturally be ruled out. Arsenal do not feature in that list. Alexander Isak won't see that as a major step up, in my opinion. He could go there, he could do well, but they can't afford him, and also I don't think they can offer him what he potentially wants, and I think that's to consistently win trophies week in, week out. And he's not going to get that at Arsenal, and that's the problem for them, isn't it? But yeah, in terms of a Premier League club, and I don't see him, funnily enough, I don't see him moving to another Premier League club. But the only two clubs he could potentially move to, in my opinion, would be Man City or Liverpool. They would be the only two clubs in the Premier League. And one, I don't think Newcastle would want to sell to another club in the Premier League. And two, City don't need him because of Haaland, and Liverpool probably don't want to spend 150 million on him either. So yeah, it's a non-starter. It's like Gary Neville when he mentioned, Man United at the end of the conversation, in terms of potentially getting Isak. It's just, it's on par with that. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. Nothing more to say. Nothing more to say, boys. Isak stays. We're listening to see that contract signed now. And that will forever end that discussion this summer. That's for sure. But let's talk about strikers that could potentially come in. Because, look, I think we're all under the impression that Callum Wilson will leave on a free transfer in the summer. I think we're all kind of universally in agreement with that. So, therefore, we need a bona fide striker that can come in and be the alternative to Alexander Isak. Let's not forget, we're guaranteed in European football in some way, shape, or form next season. So we know that we're going to be playing 3 games a week. And so let's have a look at some of the strikers that have been potentially linked with Newcastle United. Now, the obvious one, and it's been a long old link now with this individual. Not as long as some others, but certainly for the last 8 or 9 months, maybe even the last year. And he plays in France, and his name is Jonathan David. Now, what's interesting about Jonathan David is he has been consistently linked with Newcastle United. But the interesting fact here, boys, that we already know is that he will be going in the summer on a free transfer. And Get French Football have said Newcastle are one of 6 Premier League clubs in the race to sign Jonathan David. That was quite recently. And on top of that, Scott Wilson of the Echo has also reported that Newcastle have scouted him extensively over the last couple of years. We know that there have been scouts watching him in the Champions League this season. And boys, I have to say, before I get your opinions on here, I looked at his numbers, and I was shocked. 33 goal contributions in all competitions this season. So just a quick look on there. 23 goals overall and 10 assists. 14 in Liga, 9 in the Champions League. So not only is he performing in Liga, he's actually scoring goals regular in the Champions League too. My question to you boys is that the type of striker that you would go for? And is he attainable in this summer window for Newcastle United, in your opinion? That's the big question I want to ask you on Jonathan David.
Yeah, just looking at his stats as well, he scores a goal every 2 games. We have been talking about him for a long time now. he is going to be difficult to get though, because everyone is after him because of he's a free transfer, and that comes with high wage that we'd have to pay him, a decent chunk of a signing on fee, and we know from before his agent wants a chunk as well. So whether we're willing to what's the word when everyone comes together, that kind of that trading, that everyone the bidding war for him on that side of things, whether we're going to go down that route. It's worth a shot, but I wouldn't be surprised if we step back at some point, because they might just get silly. I would love him at Newcastle, and he'd be a great alternative to Isak. And he could battle Isak for that striker position, and we know that Isak is going to need a bit some rest, and then also the volume of games that we're competing in Europe and domestically. It's going to be busy, so there's plenty of game time, but it's not impossible at all. But it's just, I think there'll become a point where we'll say we can't go any further there. So that's why I have my doubts of whether it'll happen.
Chris, what are your thoughts on Jonathan David? Do you think he's attainable this summer? Interestingly, some people in the chat saying, he's not very good. He's not who we should be looking at. Some people saying yes, 100%. He's the guy we need. He kind of gives us a little bit of everything. Where do you sit on Jonathan David as a potential option for Newcastle?
I think he is attainable, but a bit like what Daz has just said. I think we'll probably go in there with an offer of, say, I don't know, I'm just making this up now, but say wages of 150 grand a week, and I think he can get more, and I think that his agent will want more. His agent will want a big signing on fee, as will he, and I think we potentially will just end up walking away and looking elsewhere. And the reason for that is because I don't think we're going to be offering Jonathan David 250 grand a week, which is probably what he could get. I don't think Newcastle will do that. I don't think they'll break the ceiling for him. I think the top earner will be Alexander Isak, with the likes of Bruno, etc., falling just be in behind them. So I don't think we'll break our wage structure for Jonathan David, and I think he will want astronomical wages because he's on a free. You'd like to think that he'd look at the project and he'd be interested in joining Newcastle. I'm sure he would be. And to add to that as well, I suppose, he wouldn't be coming in as the main man. He wouldn't be coming in as the number one striker. He'd be coming in as an alternative to Isak or a foil for Isak. And I think he'd know that. So that's why I think it would be difficult to get someone like Jonathan David in, because I think there'll always be another club out there who are willing to offer an extra 100, 150, 200 grand a week, and Newcastle just won't get into a bidding war. So he is attainable, but I just don't think that he'll join Newcastle United this summer.
It's interesting you mentioned about the the wages, because he is, and someone asked the question, he is a free transfer. I think it was Jack in the chat. He is a free transfer, and with Lloyd Kelly last season, I think we pay him rumored to be about 150 grand a week as a free transfer. So could we not offer more wages because we're not paying? Let's be honest. Right now, someone that's produced 33 goal contributions in Liga and in the Champions League as well, how much do you think he would be worth if he wasn't on a free? How much do you think we'd be paying for him?
Yeah, it's a good question, Pete. Probably about 40 million, I'd say. Strikers always have a bit more of a premium, don't they? They always cost more because obviously, scoring goals is the hardest thing in football. So, I think 40 million would probably be around there. So I see where you're going with it. Totally get it. And, Newcastle could end up going, we'll pay a bit more. But I just think there'll be clubs out there who will pay a lot more. And I just think from a footballing perspective, or certainly from a view of the player, he'll be looking at it and going, well, I'd rather join Newcastle, but they're only offering me 150 grand a week. Whereas I'm just going to throw a name out there. West Ham could come in and go, we'll give you 300 grand a week. And when you're an individual who doesn't have ties to a certain club, if another club's offering you double, maybe even more, you'd be looking at that going, well, I've got to go there. I've kind of got to, and I'm getting a really chunky signing on fee and stuff. And I think Newcastle as a club as well. Yes, we would save money in terms of not having to outlay, the big transfer fee, but I don't think we'd want to be going that high with wages. I think we'd have a wage in mind. So you're right. I think we would go higher than what we would normally, but I just don't think we'll go into that incredible, huge sum of money. And I think some clubs will offer him that, because I didn't realise his stats were that good, actually. That's a really, really good return. And clubs will be looking at that and going, yeah, we'll pay him 300 grand a week. But if he can score us, even if he has 20, 25 goal contributions in the Premier League, that's huge. That's huge for a club next season.
Yeah. One or two in the chat saying, 14 goals in Liga isn't great. But look, when you're scoring 9 goals in the Champions League, that is impressive. Yeah. So you can look at it both ways. The one thing I'd look at is that he's got consistency, because he's scored goals in every season that he's played in Liga, and he's been pivotal in everything that they've done. In anything good that they've done as a team. So he is a crucial player, and he's a what is he, 25? Would you say? Yeah. Great age. Good age.
But I suppose the question is, Pete,
he's great. Sure.
Yeah, because he was an option that we talked about the time we were looking at Isak. If you go back and watch those shows, you'd see that. And I suppose the question is, this is for Eddie Howe. Does Eddie Howe think he can get more out of him than what he offers today? What he offers is good, but Eddie Howe won't buy a player that will stay at that level. He wants to make them better, because that's the attraction for Eddie as well, and what we like to see. So yeah, I don't know. It's as we've said. I think that there'll be a point that Newcastle will say enough is enough. It's too much, because if we're also bumping up Isak's wages with a new contract, hopefully like we're doing that, then there's even less of a pie to pick from. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, all worth a discussion. That's for sure, and it's going to be an interesting one. I think it's going to be looking at what we want as a club. What do we want to do as a club? Where do we want to go? So, some people are saying players like Jonathan David aren't going to want to come in, but if you've got aspirations to be a top team, you need more than one top player in every position. When we have this argument with lots of different players, and in other teams, you look at any other team, you look at maybe a Liverpool or a Man City, they've got more than one quality player in one position. That's what we have to do to be a good team. And so, we're not doing this to replace Isak. We're doing it to supplement him. So if Jonathan David isn't the option, what do we think, boys, about this man? Someone that we know quite well. Hugo Ekitike. We know the backstory. The fee was agreed in the summer of 2022 with Rum for, I'm not sure how much I think it was around the sort of 20 million euro mark, something like that. Fee was agreed. He'd agreed to move. It looked like it was going to be done, but then all of a sudden he wanted to halt because he was waiting on PSG. And as a French player, and looking at the best team in France as an option, he then took that as an option. And some people in Newcastle don't like the fact that he did that, but you can see why he did it. But we're here now because he didn't work out at PSG. He then went on loan to Frankfurt, where he was exceptionally good. And this season, even before Mamouche moved to Man City, him and Mamouche together were causing a lot of problems. And now it looks like, from what Fabrizio Romano has said, is that he's going to be moving on, and the Premier League looks like a destination. And yes, he did say enjoy. But boys, Hugo Ekitike, talk to me. Would he be a viable option to you to bring in alongside Alexander Isak? Is it a similar situation in your mind to Jonathan David or not, maybe? What are your thoughts, Dad?
Yeah, it all depends on the fee here. Look, I've no problem with him turning us down that time. He was so young as well, and he was going from Reims to PSG. Like PSG, massive, and it's in his home country, you know. So it's a big move to make, leaving France to come and try it in the Premier League. So I don't mind that, and. Obviously did not work out with him at PSG. Look at the amount of superstars that were there at the time on massive wages as well. So we said it was a bad move for him to begin with. But yeah, as you said, he picked it up then at Frankfurt, and even like this season he's got a goal every 2 games as well. But it all depends on the fee you're talking here about. Ekitike. So yeah, I'd like to see what's being talked there. But it's kind of strange to be on the move again, though. He's moving around a lot. Could do with settling at a club for a while, and like he's a good alternative to Isak, but again, it's tough battling out for a number 1 spot or a number 9 spot, even for with Isak. But he'll get game time. He'll get chances. Yeah, the fee though. The fee is what it's all about there.
Okay, the fee. There's been lots of reports of, this is what. Apparently, Frankfurt won. There was reports as high as 80 million euros. There's talks of that we could, not we, but any team could potentially get him for 50 million. Some people think even less. Do you think Ekitike is attainable? We clearly wanted him before, Chris. Is it not the opportunity of going back in and getting your man just at a bit of a later date?
I'd really like Ekitike. I think he'd be the player that I'd go for. I know obviously what has happened in the past with him ending up moving to PSG, and as you rightly said earlier, Pete, he was a young lad who got offered the chance to play for the biggest club in his country. So I can't really blame him for that. And someone in the chat said as well, which is a really good point, the fact that we were in a relegation battle at the time. So maybe not the most attractive of options for him. But
great point.
No, I think because Eddie and his coaching team went so big on him, they really, really wanted him. They were keen to get him. So obviously he's a player, that they admired from afar. His PSG move didn't work out. He then goes to Frankfurt, and now he's doing well in the Bundesliga. And I think, as we were talking about the other day, Pete, the fact that he's done it in Ligue 1. He's now done it in the Bundesliga. It almost feels like his next move is probably the Premier League or La Liga. I personally would love us to go for him. He would be the one that I'd want. And the reason that the reason I'm so keen on him is because from the bits that I've seen of him play, he looks like that versatile centre forward, which we're all crying out for. Someone who can play off the wing. He's got that skill set where he looks very similar to Alexander Isak in the way that he's built, the way that he glides around the pitch. He can finish. I just think the lad's got everything, and I think under someone like Eddie Howe, I think he will only improve. So for me, he'd be my number 1 target this summer in terms of a forward. He would be the one that I would go for. Not to sacrifice a right winger, because we do still need a right winger. But if we're looking for a number 9 to replace Callum Wilson, I'd be looking at Hugo Ekitike. I think he would be the one. A few people in the chat are saying, about the price and stuff. I mean, price is dependent. I don't think we're going to go out and spend 60, 70 million on him. I can't see that. But if we could maybe go in with a slightly lower offer with a lot of incentives or something like that, I'm not sure. Maybe try and do a player swap. I haven't even really thought about that, but if we can try and get him for a decent fee, anywhere for me between 40, 50 million, I think you've got to get in there and get him. The difficulty is, obviously, he's done so well since he's been in the Bundesliga with Frankfurt. I think, again, a little bit like Jonathan David, there's going to be quite a lot of suitors. I think there'll be a lot of clubs in for him. So it will be difficult, but if I was Newcastle, I'd be going straight for Ekitike.
Chris, you made a great point. I think it was off air. that, and I think you should maybe touch on it again, is that when we take Isak off and we bring on Wilson, that Wilson is a totally different type of player to Isak, and we're set up for the way Isak plays, and that's why you had previously suggested that Isak was a better alternative to bring off the bench or to start instead of Isak, because we're playing in that formula. That's it.
Yeah, no, do you know what, mate? No, you're right. And I think that's why I've been, without putting any spoilers in, because I know we're probably going to go to him in a minute, but that's kind of like I'm looking more at Hugo Ekitike rather than I want to say the right name now rather than his dad, Liam Delap. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. I'm dying to say Bodie Delap again. Yeah. I know.
Go on.
Just do that every time. Because for me, Hugo Ekitike is of a very similar mold to Isak. I'm not saying he is Isak. I'm not saying he's as good as Isak, but he's a player who is on the trajectory to be that kind of player. Same with Will Asula. I don't think it's a coincidence that we've brought in a player like Will Asula, because he's almost got that. He's got that Isak. What's the phrase I'm looking for? He when he's on the ball, he's got that burst of pace. He's got that trickery with his feet. He's big. He's strong. He's powerful. He's probably good in the air. I don't know for sure, but he's kind of like that all-round modern striker, and I see that in Hugo Ekitike. I don't necessarily see that in Liam Delap, I more class Liam Delap in like the Chris Wood mold. Someone really, really good centre forward, but old style. Like, he'll hover around the box, but you're not going to see him drifting out wide. Collecting the ball, coming deep to come and get it. You're just not going to see that. And I think that's why we'll be looking at someone like Hugo Ekitike. It's a shame, because if we'd have got him when we got him, we'd probably be sitting on a 50, 60, 70 million pound striker now, but obviously it didn't pan out like that. I think another player, just to throw them in there, I think that's probably why we were looking at João Pedro. Very, very similar. Someone who is, adaptable across the front line and can kind of go out wide, and he's got loads to his game. And I think that's why someone like Hugo Ekitike would be brilliant. Can we find the next Hugo Ekitike? Hopefully we can. The only thing that I'm worried about with him now is the fact that we may have been priced out, because I don't know whether they'll want to go and spend the 50, 60 million required to go and get him. That's the only dodgy thing.
Yeah. I've got no issue with us going back in for Hugo Ekitike. When you're investing in prime positions, you've got to expect at some point to go and spend a little bit more money. For me, if Hugo Ekitike is available at 50 million, I think Newcastle United should go and buy him and not think twice. He is a player that we were buying potential a couple of years ago. He has now reached that potential, and now I think he's ready to light up on the biggest stage. And the fact that he wants to come to the Premier League and not just go off to La Liga or stay in the Bundesliga shows his ambition to be the one to want to be the best. And I like that about a player. Some people question his attitude when he was at PSG. I would question PSG more than I would question Ekitike, because I think the way he was treated at times was really unfair. Some people talked about his attitude and all the rest of it, but you have to remember when he was at PSG, he had Neymar, Mbappe, Messi, and as much as people love those three players, and I love Mbappe a lot, those three and their attitudes were stinking out the joint. And they were three bad eggs for PSG, because Messi didn't want to be there. Mbappe was playing king or God, however you want to see it. And Neymar was just doing what he wanted, basically. And the important thing to remember with that is that Ekitike was looking up to these guys. He was looking up to them as people, as icons of the sport. And they're behaving like that. Of course, he's going to think that it's okay and behave the same. And he got pointed out because he was the young lad, because they couldn't point the finger at those three boys.
Yeah, good point.
So they shipped him off after they discarded with him. They shipped him off, and he's been able to get his head right at a club that's focused on getting the best out of their players. And look what's happened. And now you're seeing what I genuinely believe what we're seeing now is what we would have seen at Newcastle United.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at it, because I think if we'd have got Ekitike, we would never have had Isak. So I'm not mad at it at all. But I think this is the perfect time to go and get a Hugo Ekitike, even if we are going to pay a little bit more. Pay it, because you know he's good enough and he can come in and do the business. There's a second question there about, will he come in and play second fiddle to Isak? Well, let's be honest. He went in and was playing second fiddle to Mamouche, and then eventually played with Mamouche together. And they were fantastic when they played together. So it can work. And he's played in that mold, and he's played in that system of not always being first choice sometimes and then not, and still making it work. So I genuinely believe that wouldn't be an issue, him coming in now to do that. Well, I think that would be a great move. And it goes back to the point that we had the conversation about Jonathan David. Is he going to be able to do that? The answer, in my opinion, is yes. Then you've got to think about what type of striker do we want? Do we want a run-of-the-mill mid and level striker that's just going to come in now and again, and we might get a good performance, we might not? Or do you want someone that you know is going to play well? If something does unfortunately happen to Isak, you've got a striker that can come in and for 3 or 4 games he can do the business and do it the same way. It also raises the question that Chris, you touched on, is what type of striker are you looking for? Because the player that we might move on to a second is very different in his build-up and setup, and is very similar to Callum Wilson. Does anyhow want the same type of striker as Isak, or does he want someone that offers something a little bit different? That's going to be a big question that we've not really considered, that we're probably going to have to consider, and we'll probably get the answer to this at some point in the summer. Because Asula can be similar to Isak too, but he's got a lot more growth that he needs. He probably needs a loan, in all honesty. So it's about what we actually want. Do we want another Isak, or do you want someone that offers something different? I think
that's if Will Asula is finished partying with Deck, because they were going off partying last night.
Anyway, yeah.
Who knows? But Pete,
I apologize. My nose just started absolutely streaming about 10, 12 minutes ago. So I'm just blowing my nose constantly. So I apologize on that. But look, there are other strikers. They're not the only ones that we're considering at this point in time. And we've raised him. So therefore, let's talk about him. Ipswich's Liam Delap. So we've just had the conversation that if we are looking in a different direction for someone that offers something different, is Liam Delap a genuine option? Now, obviously, this is his first season in the Premier League, and his first season in the Premier League has already hit him 10 Premier League goals, which I think is an impressive achievement for a team in the bottom 3 who are looking like they're about to be relegated. And there has been links with Liam Delap. This was Craig Hope in his confidential piece says that Liam Delap has been added to the Newcastle's list and are monitoring his situation. Obviously, of course, with all of these strikers that we're going to bring to you on this show, there is going to be competition, and strong competition from teams in and around us in the Premier League and others. I said teams around us, Man United as well, as it says in the piece. But, the likes of Chelsea have been heavily linked with him too. And it says on there, that Steve Nixon has been looking at various different players and talked about Jonathan David as well as Benjamin Sesko, who, to be fair, probably looks more like he's going to go to an Arsenal or someone else, but could well be a conversation that we have in the summer. But Liam Delap, he's not the same build and play as an Ekitike, as an Alexander Isak. But Daz, I'll ask you first, would you take Liam Delap as your second option choice? Liam Delap's made it clear that he feels he's good enough to play for any Premier League team. So he's put his kind of flag in the middle of the centre circle to say he wants to be playing at a high level Premier League football next season. So would you take it?
Yes, I would. And Chris has already said it. I said it in previous shows as well. He's that different type of striker. He reminds me a bit of that Shearer kind of mold about him as well, a bit like that. And also, as we said about having Ekitike as an Isak an alternative to Isak while we're resting Isak and stuff, because he's a similar kind of plays in a similar way. But yeah, as I said, Delap plays in more like a Callum Wilson plays as well. So he could be like, we are talking about a replacement for Callum Wilson. He could definitely do that role for us, and I think it is well, as you also mentioned, Pete. It is good to have that kind of plan B. Things aren't going well. We're one behind. We bring on Delap as well as Isak, and you're fighting like a fate hungry. He's 22 now. He'll be 23. No, he's actually he'll be 22 until February. So he's a great age as well. And if it didn't work out for Delap, I think it would. He would work out for us if we did bring him in. But if it didn't, he's young enough to sell on again. We did talk about him at the end of last summer, where when he was coming from a Hull, he was on loan at Hull at the time, and it was actually the Chronicle boys that alerted me to him. They started talking about him first, and then I started looking at him, and yeah, we started talking about him in our own shows. We didn't get involved in that discussion, but he's one. Yeah, to answer your question, yes, I would take him, and he's a different option for us off the bench or in game when we might need. And then going into those European games as well, there'll be a lot of teams that will park the bus. Is he someone that can bully his way in and get that goal for us that we're going to need? So yes, I'd take that. But again, I think there's going to be a lot of suitors for him. And what will Ipswich want for him? Is another question.
That said it. What will Ipswich want for someone like Liam Delap? Chris, what are your thoughts on Liam Delap? How much would you think it might take to prize him away from Ipswich? I say prize him away. It won't necessarily be, and this is no disrespect to Ipswich, that when they get relegated, it's looking like that he will leave the club. So when he does leave, how much do you think it will take to get him out of there? Considering I don't think they paid a whole lot to actually get him into the club. I'm just having a look now.
I think it was 20, Pete.
Yeah, well, it's 17.9 million euros, so less than that.
Oh wow, less than that, right? Okay.
So looking maybe around the 15 million mark potentially.
Jeez.
So
right, okay.
Yeah, what do you think?
I think given that he's had a really good season for Ipswich, who haven't had the best of seasons in the Premier League, but he's performed really well. And when he was out the team, Ipswich looked a different team. I don't want anyone in the chat to think that I'm saying Liam Delap's not a good player. I think he is. I think he's in the right team. I think Liam Delap would be a really good player, and that's not to say Newcastle is the wrong team for them. I mean, if Eddie Howe and his coaching staff want to go and get Liam Delap, I'm more than happy, because he's proven that he can do it in the Premier League. Just me personally, he wouldn't be the striker I'd go for. But that's not to say he's a bad player or I don't like him. I think he does score goals. Get
it. Lloyd Kelly watch, yes. We need to put that on the screen somewhere. Lloyd Kelly watch. Get in, Biden. If anyone's watching for the first time tonight and you missed the first Full Loaded Transfer Show, you will know. Well, you won't know, but we had a discussion on Lloyd Kelly that started the transfer talk, because if we want that 20 million to be locked and loaded into Newcastle's account for the summer, we need to make sure that they get European football. So the fact that Juventus keep winning is only a good thing for us. So anyone that didn't watch the first show, that's why we're all celebrating. Lloyd Kelly watch, get it. Code
name, Locked and Loaded. I like that. Let's use that going forward.
Locked and Losers, yeah. But in terms of price, Pete, I think 40 million's a fair price. I think he's a great age, and he is a great age. And he's proven he can do it in the Premier League. And if he joins a mid-table or a higher Premier League team, he's going to have even more chances. And you would like to think he's going to score even more goals. So no, I think 40 million is probably a fair price. Some people will say it's a bit cheaper because Ipswich should be relegated into the Championship, but we saw Birmingham City, didn't we, in League One, but paid 20 million for the striker. So I think 40 million is probably a fair price. And again, someone commented in the chat earlier that Man City will be pleased because I believe they've got a sell-on clause as well. So, that could also raise the price a little bit because obviously, Ipswich want to get as much as they can for Liam Delap. So, yeah, I think around the 40 million mark. If it was less than that, it's a bargain, being honest. But, yeah, I think around 40 million.
I reckon we can get him cheaper. I do. I've set my sort of price mark on him, not necessarily for us, but for any club that gets him at around 30 million. If he is 15 million, or the signing 15 million, double your money. He's had one good season in the Premier League, 10 goals. I think that's great money for Ipswich. Maybe with add-on clauses, you can maybe go to 35. I don't think he's going for that much, Foxy. In my opinion, I think he'll go for less. I'll be honest with you. I think if Ipswich, we have to understand that Ipswich will need to sell him. He ain't going into the Championship with Ipswich. There's no way. No. Therefore, that kind of hampers them. They know they're going to need to sell him at some point. If they're offering or they're putting it out at 50 million, they might be putting it out in the media that they want that much. For me, they ain't getting it. It's like the Tyler Dibling situation from the last show. They set him at a price at 100 million. They're not getting Tyler. Tyler Dibling ain't bringing in 100 million, and nobody is going to pay it. And that's how I see the Delap situation. Is that nobody's going to pay 50 million for Delap because there are other strikers out there in England or in Europe that you can get for less than that.
Yeah,
come in.
Exactly.
Let's be honest, boys. If us or a Chelsea, right? If us or a Chelsea are quoted 50 million for Liam Delap, what's against us going and paying that in wages and agent fees for Jonathan David? You're getting a more ready player, a player with Champions League experience. Like this will be the thinking because the likes of Newcastle and Chelsea and a couple of others would all be in for the same players. There's no way for me he goes for 50 million. I could be wrong, and I'll hold my hands up if I am, but I think 30 million with add-ons is a realistic target for Ipswich. I think they have to sell, and I think that's a deal that will probably get done for one of the teams in England. So I don't see him going abroad. But
do you know what?
Go on, Chris.
Oh, sorry, go on, Pete. Go on, mate. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, just with regards to his skill set, I do think Eddie Howe will want something different from his second striker.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll want a carbon copy of Alexander Isak because there are some games where you need somebody else to offer something different. There's been not necessarily this season because I haven't seen a lot of Callum Wilson, but go back to the Champions League securing season 22-23. Isak and Wilson worked in tandem so well because they offered something different. There were certain games that Wilson played because we needed that strength and brute like force to kind of be physical in that type of game. There are games like that for him, and there are games where Isak came in because his flair, his speed in behind made the difference. I think going into next season, particularly in Europe, you're going to need games where you've got players that offer something different. If we are, say, for example, in the Europa Conference League, and we don't secure Champions League or Europa League, going to places like Eastern European where you're going to need that kind of dogged, strong player to make a difference. Someone like Liam Delap could make a difference and actually build his name off the back of that.
And do you really want to throw Isak or 250 million superstar into a game like that where he could get broken up so you throw Delap in and fight fire with fire in a game like that. So or a similar kind of mold to go and just a different alternative to us, and we could get found out and in certain games as well. And we need something, as we've said, we both said there that something different to unlock a defense.
I agree with what Dale's put here. I could definitely see West Ham going for him.
I agree. I can see them going in for him, but it goes back to the point: will these players look at the bright lights. Like we've missed out on players before. The bright lights of European football, playing European, like Tosin Adarabioyo is the classic example. If we had European football, Tosin Adarabioyo would have been a Newcastle United player right then. Whether we're happy about that or not, he would have been, because he would have come to us had we have been playing European football. That was a huge factor, and we found that out in the full loaded transfer shows last summer on the back of him choosing Chelsea. So could that be, if he sees himself as a player playing at that level and he gets the opportunity to get European experience playing for Newcastle United, is that one going to help elevate his game? And two, think about it, lads, is that going to help him elevate himself into the England squad?
Yeah, potentially.
And I think this is where we could potentially steal a mark on the likes of West Ham and one or two others that might be in the same ballpark. But people like Chelsea, I think, will be right in the mix, and that's where we're going to have to be battling against.
And just on that, then you mentioned England squad. Look, Wilson, who was playing second fiddle or alternatives with Isak, he got into the England squad, so it is possible to do. So why not?
Yeah, great point. Absolutely, I agree. I think there's been a super chat. We'll come to that on the screen earlier, I think.
Here it is, Chris. Talk us through it.
Nobby Clark. Nobby, thank you so much, mate, for the super chat. Much appreciated. Nobby Clark says, if Ekitike comes in, he elevates Isak. It's a really good point, that, Nobby. And I think at times that's what we've always suffered, haven't we? Unfortunately, with Isak and Wilson, in the fact that it's been very rare that they've both been fit and pushing each other. And when we've seen them both being fit and pushing each other, the levels. Do you remember? Was it was the Champions League qualification season, wasn't it? Yeah. And it was like Wilson would be on the bench and he'd come on the pitch, look absolutely raging, and just start scoring goals. And then he Wilson would be on the pitch, and then Isak would come on, then Isak would start. It'd be great to have two high-performing players who are both itching for that starting berth, and to be able to rotate and even play them together at some point. Whether it be Ekitike or whether it be another striker, we need someone who's going to be there consistently supporting Isak, or someone who can come in and give Isak a rest. That's basically what we're looking for. So whether that's Ekitike or someone else, Nobby, I completely agree. I think it's going to raise Alexander Isak's levels, particularly if he's a really good player, which hopefully they are, because Alexander Isak will know that in order to keep his place in the team, he's going to have to keep performing. So now I think it's a really good point.
Yeah, definitely. Just before I add to that, have you contacted us yet, Jopadoni? Come on, man. We tweeted you back.
Waiting for you, mate.
Prize is waiting, but we were glad you're watching the show. You got to contact us, drop us a DM, we'll sort it out. Come on, great to see you in the chat.
That's some job,
man. Wanted to drop that in so he knows that we've given him another shout, another one. But you're absolutely right, Chris. They did. It was actually really interesting because it was Wilson that was starting regular, and Isak coming off the bench. And then Isak was playing so well, it almost switched. And that's what annoyed Wilson. So you've got two players that are obviously wanting the best for the team, but almost fighting against each other by scoring goals and playing well. That's exactly what we want. And look, we want Isak to be around for years. But if he's not, we want someone to come in who we think's ready to take the mantle. So it can end up being, not so much of a disastrous position if and when he does eventually leave, hopefully years and years down the line. But yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good point. Go on, Daz.
I've got a quick one. No, let's not spend too long on this, but I've got one of these.
That's a loaded question, isn't
it? Right.
That's for a while.
You can either have Liam Delap for 35 million and 20 million to go towards to add to what you'd pay for a right winger, or you can have Ekitike for 55 million, and you're still going to buy a right winger, but it'll be a lesser quality right winger because you won't have the budget to spend. What do you do? Let's just focus on those two for this hypothetical question. I'm going to Lap.
I'll let you boys have the lap. I'll be honest. I want a top right winger. I want the best right winger we can possibly get. So if that means that we don't go for our number one striker target, so be it. Like we need a top right winger. That's non-negotiable for me. It's got to be the best that we can possibly get. If we have to, if you know, the Newcastle United hierarchy approached me and said, where you putting, we have, you know, we want to sign 5 players, but there's one position we're going to put the majority of our money in. Where is it? It's right wing. 1,000,000% it's right wing. For me.
It's first priority. It is. Like, we're talking about strikers right now, but we talked about wingers, right wingers last week because we knew it was the first priority, which is why we had to talk about that first. So yeah, I agree. There has to be the first priority, and I do think the biggest budget should be put into that. Why not have both though? Why not put big budgets into both players? I'm just being greedy here, but yeah, I would say right wing first. And then backup striker or second striker, should we say, not backup. Second striker is definitely another priority, as are a couple of other positions we're going to cover. But 2 more players to cover really quickly before we do wrap up eventually, boys. Some players that have been linked previously with Newcastle United, and one of them is this man, Matheus Cunha. At Wolves. Now, he is a bit of an unorthodox forward, can play that number 10 role, doesn't always play on the last man along the last line, but can play as a forward and has done a number of occasions for Wolves. Team Talk have reported that he's joined the race, but more interestingly tonight, he's actually said these words. Fabrizio Romano reported it. I've made it clear that I need to take the next step. I want to fight for titles. They were the words of Matheus Cunha tonight, and Fabrizio Romano reported on that. Now, boys, Matheus Cunha wants to fight for titles. What do we think? Because we fight for titles. Boys, talk to me. Matheus Cunha. He's someone that you would like at Newcastle United. He's been talked about and praised a hell of a lot so far this season. Matheus Cunha, what's your thoughts?
Okay, he can play forward, number 10, on the wing, on the left wing. Brazilian, takes that box. He's settling nicely with Joe Linton and Bruno. I really like him. He's doing brilliant for Wolves. The only thing is he can be a head case at times. You see him once or twice he's been sent off now, and he just was fighting with everyone going off the pitch. He's like another step up on Joe Linton when he loses it. So if you could manage that element of him, but you don't want to bottle it up completely, because that could be that thing that makes him the player he is. But I really do like him. Did you say a price there, Pete, when you were describing him?
Well, there's been rumours when he was linked with Arsenal and various other clubs that it would be something around the sort of 50-60 million mark. Now, what's interesting to that, and in particular to those comments and those points that he's said that Fabrizio Romano called out tonight, is that a lot of Wolves fans are not happy. I've not seen Little Dan's reaction to this, but a lot of Wolves fans are not happy, and they're miffed really, because he only signed a new contract this season. So
did they have a release clause?
I don't know. I don't know for sure.
I think it has, you know.
It might be that 60 million if there is, but I don't know for sure. But yeah, interesting one.
Yeah, but no, I would really like him at Newcastle. I know we talked about him during the season already. We at one stage we're heavily linked with him. We were going to get in the mix of, must have been in January when we weren't signing anyone anyway. But no. Interesting to see how this one develops. And then he would tick the box for Eddie that he can play in a number of positions. it's just a fiery element for me. Is the danger. And he's 25, same age as Jonathan David. So has Premier League experience. Yeah, depending on the price, I'd love to see him at Newcastle.
Yeah, he extended his contract until 2029 this season. So, yeah, release clause or not, it could well be in that situation. 19 goal contributions this season, not bad. Not bad return for a team that are fourth from bottom at this point in time. Not had a great season, Wolves, but he has been the catalyst of why they are likely to stay up. Chris, your thoughts on Matheus Cunha?
See, I was one of those, and I don't mind holding my hands up to this. I was one of those where I didn't see the hype. I wasn't fully in on Matheus Cunha, and then I started watching Wolves more closely. I'm trying to think of the reason. I think I started watching them more closely because it was when Everton were quite close to them, and I was thinking, "Come on, Wolves, come on, Wolves!" And then obviously they had the game, and the game I'm talking about actually was the game against Man United. I think Man United were 1-0 up and Wolves ended up winning it 2-1. I could be wrong, but I think that's the game it was. And Matheus Cunha was absolutely unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. And then I was like, okay, I'm starting to see why this hype is. And pretty much since then, whenever Wolves are on, I like to try and watch them because he's one of those players there's not many players around like him. Daz mentioned earlier, he kind of floats around. He can play in a number of positions, and that shows how good of a player he is. The fact that he can play in the 9, he can play in the false 10, he can play on the wing, and he makes it look effortless. And he when he receives the ball, he always seems to have loads of time. And I always like players like that because it just shows how good they are on the ball, and the first touch is always absolutely spot on. I think he'd be a brilliant player, absolutely brilliant player. Someone in the chat wrote there, that he Eddie Howe would like him, and I think he absolutely would. He talking about what you boys were saying earlier about alternatives. He offers you a different option as well. He's more a squad utility player in terms of he could do a job pretty much anywhere in that forward line. But he's also quality. I'm pretty sure, boys, and I'm happy to be proven wrong here, but I am pretty sure that the reason he signed that Wolves deal was because there's a clause in there. I think at the end of the season there is a clause, and that's almost like a come and get me now because the likes of Arsenal, the likes of Liverpool, they're definitely going to be interested in him because he improves most teams, and particularly in this popular. We don't need a striker. We'll just play with a midfielder who can play in there. He's the perfect foil. He's like another Bobby Firmino, but I actually think he's better than Bobby Firmino. He's got so much in his locker. I think he'd be a great player. Whether to go back to your original question that you asked a little while ago, Pete, as to whether he's attainable, I think it'd be difficult. Because I think there will be a number of top clubs out in for him who will probably offer him silly wages. So I think he would be really difficult to attain. But no, I'd love Matheus Cunha. I think he'd be a great signing. I really do. Jopazzini, just to say, I've noticed I don't follow you on X, mate, and I thought I did. So I've just followed you, mate. So I'm going to drop you the DM after the show. And we'll get in touch and get that voucher sorted. I do apologise because I know you said you were trying to DM me, but you couldn't, and it's probably because I don't follow you, but I do now, mate. So I will drop you a DM after the show, and we'll link up and get that voucher sorted for you. But yeah, Matheus Cunha, mate, all over him. I doubt it, but I'd love him.
Just on his clause, I'm reading that from New York Times saying there is a release clause, and on BBC and Sky saying 60 million, 62 million kind of a figure for a clause for him. So it's a lot. It's a big outlay, but he can play in a number of different positions, as we said. So could be ticking a few different boxes, and then that may free up like a Barnes, for example, to I'm not trying to offload Barnes around the bush. If an offer did come in, then at least you have a backup for Gordon as well on that left.
Don't you free up Barnes? Don't you do it? Oh, okay.
Did he wave at you, Pete? Did he wave on the bus to you?
He did. Well, I thought he did. He could have waved and told me. I have no idea, but no. Matheus Cunha. I watched in particular the Villa game I did watch the Man United game, but I was a bit in and out. It was over Christmas, but I watched the Villa game, he caused them crazy amounts of problems. And I did also watch the Bournemouth game in the FA Cup where he ended up getting sent off, and he played really well in that as well. So there's clearly quality there. And look, let's be honest. If anyone can tame him, anyhow knows how to tame a crazy Geordie, a Brazilian Geordie. He's done it with Joe Linton. He's done it with Bruno. Why don't we throw in Matheus Cunha as well and add him to the Brazilian mix? And those boys know each other as well. So who's to say that could be a sort of a way of negotiating, and the fact that he plays with those boys in the national squad could be a way in. But I take him, it's an interesting point that you made, that he can play a little bit deeper or a little bit wider. So he is that versatile, that he has that versatility that Eddie Howe likes. But his technical quality on the ball, and his passion and his drive and his willingness to be the kind of the main man in his team. It's the type of player that you kind of want in your team. When you see a player doing that for his club and he's leading by example, you want those leaders that can take charge and make the difference on the pitch. And I like that about him. Yeah, he's a little bit crazy, makes bad decisions on occasion, but hey, weren't we saying the same for Anthony Gordon? And look at him. There are players that have come in that have had question marks about their sort of temperaments, and we've managed to deal with that. So for me, I don't see him as a bad apple. I just see him as someone really passionate to be the best. And he looks frustrated at Wolves. There are games where he's played exceptionally well, but has dropped. He's dropped off kind of, he's basically ended up losing games where he's been one of the best players on the pitch. And I think that would frustrate anybody. And so I think that frustration is kind of linked to the sort of comments that you're seeing right now that was reported by Fabrizio Romano. So for me, I would definitely want to get him in if it was possible. But again, it'll be related to the fee. But yeah, we'll move on because time has caught up with us. There's one last player I wanted to bring up to the list, and he's a player that I like, and I've talked about before. I bring him to the table for obvious reasons, for selfish reasons, because I think he would be a terrific signing for Newcastle United if we could have taken.
Was he on the bus waving at you, Pete?
No,
I knew it was going to be him.
He might be next time, and it's Victor Boniface of Bayer Leverkusen. Now, it has been reported. Football Insider reported, but many others have said that Newcastle and Chelsea are looking at potentially around 40 million to sign Victor Boniface. His contract runs out in, I think, 2028, so similar contract to Isak still on the table. But let's not forget, in January he was pretty much about to step on the plane to go off to Saudi to Al Nassr and join Cristiano Ronaldo before a last minute change in I've got his name now.
Ivan Toney.
No, the one at Villa. Duran, that's it. Jonathan Duran ended up being the major signing for Al Nassr, and Victor Boniface's deal went through, which tells me that there's a chance that that Leverkusen are willing to deal for him. Victor Boniface, have to be honest, boys, 21 goals last season and 9 assists in last season when they did their invincible season, were absolutely fantastic in the Bundesliga. Not as successful this year. I think he's played more of a bench role, which may well come into conversation later. He scored 11 goals and got 1 assist. There's 12 goal contributions from the bench in a lot of games this season. So Victor Boniface, would he be a good alternative to you? Would he be someone that you looked at if the opportunity arises to bring him in? I know we've talked about it before, Daz.
Graham, he's on about Boniface again. Graham Bailey. No, I don't think he's a big fan of Boniface, if I remember when we were talking about him before. He's probably the lowest of the list of my priority list of who we talked about tonight. Would be Boniface. Look, he has some good numbers there, and especially last season. And look, he's only 24. He's played 12 games for Nigeria. Hasn't scored yet. But I don't know. I haven't watched him for a while, to be honest. Yet, and I did look him at the time we were talking about him, whatever, many months ago. So I can't really comment anymore on him. But you think he's good, Pete?
Yeah, I do. I'm a fan. I do like him. I do like his style. I think for me, he has a little bit of everything. But Chris, Victor Boniface, would he be someone that you would consider bringing in as your Isak number 2? May not be your top option, but would he be someone that you'd be happy with if Newcastle went and shelled out the money to bring him in?
Yeah, I think he'd be a good foil for Isak. I think he's proven over the last few seasons, that he can get goals in the Bundesliga. He wouldn't be top on my list, but he certainly would be on the list. I think he's a player worth looking at. He's got a funny face, man.
That's a Nobby.
But yeah, no, any player who comes into Newcastle United can only improve under Eddie Howe's coaching. And I think if you can if he comes in and Eddie Howe works for him, I'm sure he's someone that you can work with. I think as well, the fee sounds a lot more reasonable. I think when we were first talking about him, Pete, they were talking like north of that, weren't they? They were saying that it was going to cost a lot more than that. So now could be the time, to go in for him. Given that Leverkusen, from the sound of things, want to move him on. So if you can get him for like a better deal, and he's still a good age, I'm going to say good age. He's still got his best years in front of him. Wow. So why not?
So some people who weren't sure, is he 28? He's actually 24, but we've had Nigerians that have been our strikers previously in the years that we've not been.
Only a number.
Yeah, about how old they were. Hello to Obafemi Martins. But yeah, you're right. He's 24 years old. He's still, for me, that's a great age. It's a great age for a striker. Still lots to give, lots to offer. As I say, I think he's quite well rounded. He can do the hold up play and hold up the ball. I love that.
True fact.
But he can offer, he can run in behind, he can hold up the ball, and he's got that ability to produce a little bit of magic, and he's got that strength and like ball-like sort of hold up play, and can just batter himself through defenders to create opportunities. He's got a little bit of everything, and look, he has to fight out with some very, very good players, like to Patrick Schick. He's in tandem with Florian Wirtz as well. Martin Terrier, who's another player that I remember Lee talked about when he was in France, and now he's playing for Bayer Leverkusen. He's having to come up against a number of forwards in these positions, and he doesn't always play. But if he's happy not always playing and still be able to produce the business, why not come and do that with Newcastle United? I think if you're asking for anybody that's kind of not necessarily happy to ride the bench, but has been doing it and still been contributing, then he'd be a natural go-to. His contract's still long, but he's a player that's worth putting the money in for me. So another player to kind of throw in the mix there, who looks like he could well be on the move because he was nearly going to Saudi in January. It looks like they are happy to part ways with him. So a player just to keep an eye on for now, because he might well become a topic of conversation later on in the summer.
Yeah, definitely.
Boys, there are players for tonight. I know there's lots of other players we've gone through. We've gone way beyond our allotted time. So anything to add before we start to wrap up this show, boys?
When's the next bus parade? I'm going to the next one. I've made my mind up. It'll be for the Premier League or the Champions League. I'll be at it. I'll be at it for that one. That's
100%. And hopefully it's not too far away.
Exactly.
Hopefully.
Just before we wrap up, everyone in the chat, massive thanks for your comments, questions, and contributions for tonight. Great to see you all in the chat, lively and asking great questions and having good conversations. Just, if you can, give us a like on the way out. Get those likes right up as high as you possibly can. And thank you for tuning in. We will be covering a new position and talking transfers again very, very soon. So keep an eye out on all things Loading Mag and NUFC. And if you're new to the channel watching this live or watching back, make sure you click that subscribe button and come on, join us on Loading Mag and NUFC more often.
Nice one. This has been Fully Loaded Transfer Show. Loaded positions. We'll try out another one next week. Good night, everyone.
Sir.